I know for sure I can't be the only one who's excited for Native Instruments' new machine. My name is El Marquis, musician, rapper, record producer, unashamed craft follower, and today I'm going to make a reaction video to the new Maschine Plus.
El Marquis Productions.
First of all, if this is the first time ever seeing me, welcome to the channel. I make videos that break down my beat making and songwriting process. I give tips and advice to independent artists and producers. I give tutorials made specifically for Logic Pro 10, and every now and then I do some product reviews like this. So if any of that interests you, I would like you to do me a really quick favor. Go down, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so that way you'll be able to see more videos like this, and then you'll be able to help other people see more videos like this. Got this up down? Cool. All right, now let's actually get into the video. So if you follow me here on YouTube or if you follow me on Instagram, you may notice that I use the Maschine in pretty much all my beats. I started on making beats on the first version of the Maschine controller back in 2013. It wasn't a brand new product, but it had been out for just a couple of years at that time. About 3 years ago, I upgraded to the Maschine MK3. That's been my weapon of choice for about 3 years now. I think that's how long it's been out, and I love that thing. When I first got into producing, I actually started out using the Maschine software itself, and eventually I migrated over to Logic Pro 10, and now I use the Maschine controller as well as the Maschine software inside of Logic. I'm a big fan of the controller and the software, and Native Instruments just recently announced their next version of the Maschine controller called Maschine Plus. So now I'm going to actually record myself reacting to the video and what they display in the video. I might just go over the main points, or I might go through the entire video. So now I'm going to go do that, and then I'm going to tell you whether or not you should invest in this controller. All right, I got the Maschine Plus walkthrough video pulled up. This video is available on Native Instruments website. So now I'm going to play through the video. Might just stick to the most important parts. This is actually the first time I made a reaction video, so this is cool. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while. So I'm going to play through the video. I'm going to try to do as few cuts as possible, and I'll pause here and there just to give my opinion on something, and let's begin. Now that already looks really good. That looks so cool.
Hey everyone, in this video you can find out more about the outstanding features of Maschine Plus.
That looks so good.
For the first time ever, Maschine has become fully standalone with its own built-in processor and internal storage.
So the cool thing about that is that they were definitely moving towards this direction with their previous controllers. For example, on the very first Maschine controller that I had, I still had to go back and forth between that controller and the computer. With the Maschine MK3, the version that I currently own, you didn't have to look at your computer as much because they had a lot more visual feedback on the screens themselves. You still would have to go to the computer for some things, but it included so many shortcuts on it to where you really could make a whole beat without looking at your computer screen at all. Kind of similar to also their complete control keyboards. And now with this Maschine Plus controller, you don't need a computer at all. So it looks a lot like the Maschine MK3 controller.
The whole layout of Maschine Plus is based on the renowned Maschine MK3 model.
There you go.
It has exactly the same form, but doesn't require the use of a computer. This was made possible by integrating a quad-core processor, 4 GB DDR dual-channel RAM, and 32 GB internal flash storage.
So I'm not that big of a computer nerd to where I know what all those specs mean, but basically this looks pretty much exactly like the Maschine MK3 controller, except it's got like a computer inside of it.
Together with the additional SD card drive on the left-hand side, there's everything required to get hands-on with your virtual instruments, samples, and effects. When looking closely, you'll notice that Maschine Plus comes in a premium housing, featuring metal knobs, and this gorgeous heavyweight main encoder which works in 4 directions.
That's a step up from the Maschine MK3 controller because the ones on the Mark III, they're good, but they're plastic. This has a higher standard build quality to it, which I'm assuming the metal knobs may feel better, and they also are going to be more durable, because I have heard some people who travel with the Maschine Mark III, their knobs sometimes fall off. I have not had that issue myself, but the build quality was already amazing, and now they're stepping it up even further.
On the back, there's a nice selection of audio and MIDI IOs, where you can also connect your speakers and headphones.
That was a feature that they actually did introduce on the Maschine Mark III as well. On the editions before the Maschine Mark III, you did not have an interface, and now this one actually does have one. I personally haven't tried using it myself just because I'm happy with the interface that I do have, but if I were on the go making beats outside of my home, I would definitely take advantage of this feature.
Here we integrated 2 new USB-A ports for MIDI keyboards and external instruments. Right next to that, there's the power connector with a special twist.
You know, a completely random thought that I had. It would be cool if in a future edition, if they were somehow able to make this be able to be powered without having to plug it into something at all. Like maybe like you charge it up, it has like a battery inside of it, similar to like a cell phone or a laptop, and then you could at least power-wise go completely wireless. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. This control's not even out yet.
Wi-Fi is already built in, so you can comfortably set up the unit for the first time, access compatible content from your existing account, or download new stuff directly onto the device.
So I'm assuming this would be very useful if you had something like Complete, or if you had different contact libraries or different machine expansions, so that you could download your sounds directly to the controller itself. I'm curious to know if you could actually download third-party samples, like if you use other VSTs like Omnisphere or Serum, or if you have other drum samples that you use that aren't machine sounds, that are sounds that you collected from other websites.
Now it's time to take your first steps and check out the well-refined Maschine work. Activate record if you have an idea that you want to lay down. Maschine automatically adjusts the correct pattern length like a looper. Step mode is great fun when you want to quickly program percussive patterns.
So this part looks somewhat similar to what's already on the Maschine MK3.
Keyboard mode makes it possible to play perfectly in tune and come up with melodies very intuitively.
That's one of my favorite features on the Maschine Mark III. Like I would use the keyboard if I used
the LED strip gives you a great overview on the length of your patterns. In case you want to dive deeper into editing, hit Events. Here you can get into the nitty-gritty details on the crisp color screens and modify every node in detail.
That's really useful.
Don't miss the chance to perform some effect drops directly on the touch strip.
This is super cool if you use this controller for like in live performances.
Very quickly you will be able to sketch out tracks using just Maschine Plus and its included pro-grade instruments and effects. Now you're listening to a drum pattern which is created exclusively with Machine's internal drum synth modules. Their sound is pretty versatile, and all of the modules can be manipulated in fine detail to match your personal taste.
So Maschine comes with a lot of stock sounds. It also comes with different expansions that you can purchase, similar to sample packs from like other people's websites, except these kits are made specifically for Maschine. I personally have never really used Maschine for mixing, but it does come with different effects that you can use when you're making beats, as well as different ways to manipulate sounds. For me personally, one thing I do hope it comes within another Maschine update is an improved mixing workflow. Like one reason why I personally don't like mixing on Maschine is because the meters on the software itself don't really show enough detail in comparison to, let's say, like something in Logic or maybe Pro Tools. So they have been working on improving the software and making it more and more similar to a DAW and more competitive with the DAW. For it to really feel like a DAW, in my opinion, the mixing workflow does need to be refined a bit more, but it is getting a lot better.
Let's take it up a notch and add some external gear. Maschine Plus can trigger external instruments via MIDI, like this little Korg Volca FM over here. I can play it with Machine's renowned pads in any of the available modes.
Wow.
With all the little helpers, like the built-in scale mode.
That's super. The scale mode is definitely super useful. I take advantage of that.
You can also use the arpeggiator.
But it's controlling that from that MIDI controller on the right. So if you're someone who's invested in or hardware gear like that, this is a crazy feature. I personally don't have any hardware synths, but if I did, I would definitely be using that because that's crazy nice.
Presets already included, and it feels like they become immersed into Maschine Plus.
What's coming across as to me is being able to like literally control everything from the Maschine controller itself, even the sounds from that external synthesizer right there.
All movements can be recorded just like that while holding down the auto button.
If you're someone who's like a sound designer, or if you made sample packs and things like that, that's a feature I would definitely without a doubt use. That's so clutch for making sample packs and doing sound design type stuff.
Loop mode, all recorded files will be automatically played back and looped by the audio module.
Perfect for most sample-based producers. That's crazy nice. That's crazy.
The great thing is that you can now treat the loop as any other sample in Maschine Plus and get some really unique and surprising results.
Wow. So all of these are actually the stock effects that come inside a Maschine. That was previously in like the Maschine software, but now you can do all of that just with the controller itself.
Connecting Maschine Plus to the outside world is also possible with the built-in Ableton link. which helps to sync your instruments and DAW so they all share the same tempo. This is especially useful when you want to integrate iOS apps and play with friends.
At one point, I was considering getting the iMaschine app in the, like, just on like an iPad or something like that. I've not tried it out myself, but let's continue watching because this actually looks really cool.
This is how you can bring your tracks to the final production stage and refine it with either the Maschine software or your favorite DAW. In storage mode, you can access the internal storage and your SD card content remotely from your desktop or laptop computer. This is how
perfect.
you can
So when you make a project on the Maschine controller itself, you can actually easily migrate it over to a computer. Perfect.
In case you want to further expand your palette, become more versatile and discover specific music styles, a growing catalog of supported expansions will become available.
The expansions are super nice. If you use Maschine and you don't use expansions, you're missing out.
These can be downloaded over the air directly onto your device.
I'm not over that feature, so you could download stuff directly through the Maschine controller itself, through Wi-Fi. That's one of the most impressive features in my personal opinion. Like, you really don't need to use a computer at all. They made it so standalone that you could even just download stuff from the controller itself, like Native Instruments. Shout out to you.
All of this is done wirelessly, making Maschine Plus a fully independent workstation on its own.
The only thing I wish they could have done, which maybe it could be done in the future controller, because I know this thing can take up a lot of power, is for it to be completely wireless in terms of just not needing to plug it into an external power source. Like if they had maybe like a battery type deal, that would probably make the controller a lot bigger though. So I don't know.
Developments will happen in close relation to existing Maschine controllers. The first example of this is the integration of the new song clips, which make it easy to work on a traditional linear timeline. This highly anticipated feature was recently released and is now accessible in the Maschine software.
The layout of Maschine Plus already has been updated with new ideas and clip.
Wow. That controller looks crazy nice. Software improvements look crazy nice. Like this looks super cool to me. I also pulled up the page on the website where it talks a bit more about the controller. I'm just gonna skim over it really quick. Not gonna go over everything. Maschine Plus, the workflow, the sound, no computer necessary. Standalone production and performance instrument, the workflow, the sound, no computer necessary. A lot of this is pretty much going to be a repeat of what was shown in that video. Maschine Plus is a sampler, drum machine, a synth, and an onstage superpower. In short, it's whatever you make it. Leave the laptop behind, jam with your other gear, and create beats in minutes with a wealth of onboard sounds, instruments, and effects. It's the iconic Maschine workflow with fewer strings attached. Like this would be perfect. I mean, you already could use this for performing, but now you don't need a computer, so it will make performing with this thing live even more convenient, especially for people who either don't have a computer or maybe their computer is just a bit sluggish, and that's just one less thing to worry about in your chain that's messing up. Because now if your computer has an issue or if your hard drive has an issue for some reason, now you can do everything with just the Maschine controller. That's crazy. One thing that was not covered in that video: 9 instruments, 35 effects, and thousands of sounds on board, as well as this classic groove box workflow. Maschine Plus includes Maschine Plus Selection, a dedicated package of 9 synths and sample instruments, 35 effects, and 7 expansions, including 2 of your own choosing that work seamlessly in standalone mode. It includes heavy hitters like Massive, FM8, Monarch, Prism, the Maschine Factory Selection, ROM, and Faces. That means its 16 pads can sound like a dusty vintage drum kit, a warped wavetable lead, or an organic model synth, pretty much anything you can think of if you flex your sound design skills. Those are powerful synths too. Massive, FM8, Monarch, Prism, even with all the different synths that it has in there, I still use Massive in a lot of different beats. That's like one of my go-to synths, even though like it's an older synth too, and they have a newer version of it out called Massive X. But straight out the gate, there's already so much that you could do with this. I'm feeling it. I'm liking this a lot. Now I'm actually going to go tell you my opinion on whether or not you should get this controller or not for yourself. If you can't already tell, overall I'm actually very impressed with the Maschine Plus controller. They have tons of really amazing features that come with it, but is this something that you should purchase? So to me, it seems like they're really trying to model this after an MPC controller. That's been the inspiration behind the controller in the past, visually and functionally, and now with this controller, they're giving you the ability to be able to do everything within the controller itself. So who do I think this is most useful for? In my opinion, if you're a producer who's always on the go, if you're someone who likes to make beats in different locations, such as maybe different rooms in your house, or maybe coffee shops, maybe an airplane, or just different places outside of the studio in general that do have a source of power, this makes portability a lot more convenient, assuming that you are making beats somewhere where it can be powered. That's why I do wish that actually it did have some type of battery inside of it itself so that it could be a truly wireless experience, other than I guess maybe, you know, like speakers or headphones, but just being able to like literally make beats anywhere. Because like if I wanted to make beats outside, for example, I would either need a really long extension cable or I just would plug it into a computer. And if maybe you're someone who grew up using an MPC and maybe you want to try something new, maybe you want to get into the Native Instruments ecosystem, this also would be for you, because now they're offering, from the little bit of what I know about MPCs, similar features. And if you're used to not needing a computer to make music on, and you're used to just making music on one singular device, then this would be ideal for those type of people. Who do I think this is not for? Something that I forgot to show you on the screen is that it is a pretty expensive device. This thing costs $1,399. And for everything that it can do, I think the price is definitely justified. But if you're a producer who just started getting into music and maybe you're looking for your first controller, and if you're on a bit of a budget, especially if you don't already have other essential pieces of equipment like a computer or decent speakers, decent headphones, a really good audio interface if you're either recording your own voice or if you're recording other people's voices, this probably wouldn't be the first thing I would invest in as a beginner, just because with that price tag, unless you just have a really big budget and you just want to buy the best of the best gear, there might be more important things for you to buy if you're just starting out, like the previous things I did mention, like a computer or maybe some really good headphones, or maybe a really good interface if you're recording vocals or instruments. But now, what if you currently own a different Maschine controller? Is it time to upgrade? For me personally, I'm still very happy with my Maschine MK3. I really don't make beats outside the studio because I have a desktop and not a laptop. So maybe it would be cool for someone like me who does have the desktop, and then I could use the Maschine Plus in other places outside of the studio. For me, I think a better investment would just be to eventually get a laptop. But the unit itself does look really good, and I definitely would be happy just using it. And if I did eventually get it, I definitely would take advantage of all the features that it has on it, especially being able to make beats without a computer. The one thing I am curious about though is if you're using it as a standalone controller, can you also use third-party synths or samples outside of the Native Instruments ecosystem, such as like Serum or Omnisphere, or different VSTs in general that may or may not actually be NKS compatible? And similar things with like effects plugins. Would I be able to access plugins that aren't a part of the Native Instruments family with the standalone device, or would I still need a computer to access those? Those are questions that weren't really answered in that video that hopefully they'll be able to answer in the future. So actually for me, that would be a pretty big deal breaker. Even though I do mostly use Native Instruments sounds, I do use other VSTs in addition to Native Instruments. So if that isn't a feature, that would be a really good feature to have as well. If you're someone who has an older version of the Maschine controller, such as the Maschine Mark 1, 2, the Studio, and if you have the budget, then I might consider making the upgrade. When I upgraded from the Maschine Mark 1 to the Mark 3, my workflow definitely did improve. The newer pads are a lot better in my opinion. The knobs are better, it looks better, and a lot of the shortcuts and functions really do speed up my workflow using the newer controller. So if you're happy with the current workflow, that's fine. But if you're interested in improving your workflow, speeding things up a bit, and if you want the ability to be able to make beats without using a computer, I would definitely consider it. So in my attempt to summarize everything that we just went over, it definitely does come with a lot of very useful features. I use the Maschine in pretty much 99% of everything I make. Even with all these amazing features, it does come at a pretty big price tag. So if you are a beginner, if you're looking for your first MIDI controller, and if you're on a smaller budget, I probably wouldn't recommend this to you. If you're someone who is on a bigger budget and you want the best of the best, then I probably would. If you have an older version of the Maschine controller, I would consider upgrading to it. It may not be a necessity, but if you can't afford it and if you want to improve your workflow, then I would at least consider it. If you already own the Maschine Mark 3, I wouldn't necessarily be in a rush to upgrade unless you really want and need those standalone features to where you don't need to go back and forth between your controller and the computer, especially since the controller looks almost exactly like the Maschine Mark 3. If you have the Maschine Mark 3 controller already, and if you don't really think that you would take advantage of those standalone features, then I wouldn't really see that much of a point in upgrading, because to me, upgrading from the current model to this next gen model, that's a really big feature that I would take advantage of in my opinion. And overall, I like all of the features. The only other things I personally would have wanted to see myself is not needing that external power source and just actually being able to power it with just a battery itself, that you could charge in a similar way to your laptop or your cell phone, so that you could have a truly wireless experience. I've been using MPC before, so I'm not sure if that's how those work or if those also need to be plugged into a wall. And as of the recording of this video, I'm not sure if they put out any information on whether or not you can use sounds outside of Native Instruments with the standalone features. I know you can in the Maschine software itself, but it wasn't really clear with what they have out right now if you can do that in the Maschine standalone features. So if that's not already a feature on there right now, it would be cool if that was added in a software update, but it's not really clear right now whether or not you can do that. But overall, I definitely am very impressed with this. It's not something I would be in a rush to get in right now, as I'm still very happy with my Maschine Mark 3 controller, but Native Instruments made a really good product, and if this fits the needs that you're looking for, then I highly recommend that you get the Maschine Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you've seen today, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you know whenever I upload new videos. Also be sure to visit my website, lmarquisproductions.com, where you'll be able to check out my music, my beats, my sample kits, my merchandise, and my mixing, mastering, and consulting services. Now go down in the comment section below and let me know, what other products should I review? What other products should I react to? Are there any new products or plugins that are coming out that you want to see me react to? Let me know in the comment section below. My name is L Marquis Productions. God bless.